Thank you for joining us. This is Live with Miami's Community News, and I'm Michael Miller. Our special guest today is Christopher Benjamin, who's running for County Court Judge. Welcome, and thank you for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. So, number one, Christopher, why do you want to become a judge?
Well, in 2010, I was appointed to the traffic court bench as a traffic court magistrate, and I spent 10 years doing that before I got elected in 2020 to state representative. And the impact really is why I want to continue to do it. The impact on people's lives. As a magistrate, I was able to educate people about the law. I was able to be empathetic. I was able to be patient and listen. And I was able to be fair and administer justice, and it felt good.
So you were in the armed services.
Yep.
How long were you in the service?
4 years.
Congratulations. Thank you for doing that. And for protecting us. And so many people don't understand, when you put on that uniform, you got to butch up or else. All right. So thank you for doing that. So at that point, you finished with your service, mm-hmm. and then you said, okay, I want to go do something else. And at that point, what was that something else?
I didn't know exactly because I was in the med corps in the military. So I thought I wanted to do something in medicine. So I thought about nursing. So I knew I was coming home to go straight to college. And so I registered at Florida Memorial University the same month that I came home. I started that semester because it was in August. And I registered as a biology major at Florida Memorial, thinking that I'd be in the medical field somehow. But by sophomore year, and I had taken some classes, I was like, I don't think this is going to work out for me. So I was like, what can I do that involves my talents and involves my desire to want to help people? And I came up with being a lawmaker.
So then you went to Florida Memorial. So what's that process now? Okay, so you said, okay, I'm at Florida Memorial, and you graduated from there?
Yes.
And then what?
While I was at Florida Memorial, I had an opportunity to do a summer internship with Congresswoman Carrie Meek at the time. So I got to see how Washington worked, how lawmaking works, and I noticed that everybody who assisted the representatives and senators were JDs. And so I was like, well, when I get back to school, I'm gonna register for law school. And I took the LSAT and I registered for law school.
It sounds like almost from an innocence point.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like, okay, I'll go try that.
Yeah.
When did you know you could do all those things? At what age did you go, I can do this?
Probably 21, around 21.
And what was that discovery like when you became self-actualized?
It was, what do I want to do with my life to give it meaning and to raise my family in a meaningful way and to leave the world a little bit better than I got it? And how can I do that with the talents that I possess? And that's when I realized that doing something that involved communicating, something that involved changing circumstances of people is what I wanted to do.
How did you get so smart so soon? And I'm very serious about that. How did that occur?
I think just exposure. I had really good mentors. I joined a fraternity and my second semester at Florida Memorial, and Black fraternities and sororities are very much about the community and giving back to the community. It's based upon that talented 10th philosophy that those who go and get educated should come back to their community and try to uplift their community. And I very much, having served in the military, understanding what service was about, I really wanted to continue that in a meaningful way.
So I've noticed here that you were a certified mediator and arbitrator for 15 years.
Yeah.
So tell people what a mediator does and how people come to you.
Well, oftentimes what a mediator does is they facilitate the conversation between the litigants, the people who are suing each other or who may intend to sue each other. And they get them to talk and to look at ways by which they can resolve that particular dispute. Because what happens is sometimes people just aren't listening to each other. And so what I do is I facilitate that listening for them and say, hey, that's not what he's saying, or that's not what she's saying. Here's what they're saying. And let's respond to that. And what can we do if you hear that now, how can we resolve this issue?
So when you watch that happening, you must have a lot of patience inside, and you look at the party and they're maybe yelling at each other. And it could be 6 months to 2 years that it's been in the works.
Yeah.
And that may be the only time they've been next to each other in years.
Oftentimes it's the only time that they've been next to each other.
You
They've
feel
been
like
in the
you're
same
going
room.
like this?
Yeah, sometimes it's like, and that's why you have to at some points you separate them in these things we call caucuses in the mediation world. We call them the caucuses, and you talk to them individually, where you can talk to them one-on-one and say, hey, this is what your case looks like, or go back to the other room and say, here's what's wrong with your defense, and hopefully them listening to you, you get to say, now based on the things that I've told you about your case, about this case, here's what may be a good resolve for this case, where you leave not particularly happy, you leave not particularly happy, but you both leave happier than you would if the judge or the jury had to make the decision.
Recently, I was involved in a lawsuit. I'd sued somebody I've known for a long time. And then it wasn't going anywhere. Just one day I picked up the phone and I called him. I said, listen, we got to get through this. I said, the best one is that you're not happy and I'm not happy. So let's get done with this, because we can keep going like this. And at some point, either we're going to decide or some judge is going to decide after we each spend another $25,000, all right, each, and grief.
Yeah, I tell them all the time, the only people who are going to be completely happy with this is your attorneys.
Stop making them rich, for God's sake. Who wants to pay them $500 an hour to listen to our grief? Okay, so then you also you mentioned about the hearing officer. That's for traffic.
Yep.
And people are saying, are those typically for people that have received tickets from a police officer?
Correct.
And
or parking.
Or parking tickets.
Or parking tickets.
Or parking tickets.
Yep.
Okay, that's interesting.
You'd be surprised. I was shocked at how many people actually do contest their parking tickets.
Yeah. So, yeah. I'm sorry.
See?
So when you see these things, it's very serious to them. All right?
It's absolutely serious.
Right? It's not the money, it's the principle.
Yeah, it's absolutely serious to them. They feel they've been aggrieved by the officer or by the system, and they want some type of justice.
And so do litigants, when you're mediating, or even when you're not, but traffic, that's sort of a mediation also. Hey, tell me your story and this and this. And...
Well, I try to tell folks is that traffic court is just like any other court. We're ran by the criminal rules of procedure. The officers must prove their citations beyond a reasonable doubt. And we listen to their evidence. They get cross-examined by the defense, and then we make a decision based on having the law and having heard the facts. We, as the traffic hearing officers, make a decision, and it's permanent. The only way that you get out of our tickets is you have to appeal us.
And I see a note here on code enforcement. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that.
Code enforcement is interesting too, because you're basically going into different municipalities and making decisions about who's violated their code.
Oh, I'm familiar with some of that. I'm quite familiar with that.
Absolutely. So those can be some of the most. And I've represented people on almost every aspect of law on both sides of the V, and I've been deciding cases for over 15 years. But those cases
in code enforcement for the cities, lots of times neighbors are there testifying against neighbors.
Against neighbors,
right?
Yeah.
And if the complainant didn't do their job well enough, the evidence many times can't get in, even though the party did whatever they're saying. Mm-hmm. So I'm quite familiar with that. But after a while, the neighbors get wise. They figured out how to do that. Mm-hmm. And so there is an option for people when they get code enforcement violations, they can appeal to the city, and then somebody, like what you used to do, you would go in.
I still do.
And so I know you must have a good time, with that. But in all these cases, you have people, typically, if the neighbors are really upset on both sides, right, because they have too much noise going on or they built something, and then the others.
But a lot of times it's the city. The city is telling a property owner, listen, you can't do it. You can't do that particular thing, or you can't do that thing this way. A lot of it is building something on your property without a permit, or your driveway. You can't build your driveway that way, or you need to cut your grass.
there was a neighbor of ours near here where the grass was way high. And he was a little older guy, and I was trying to help him out. So he thought that the code enforcement officer went and got the ruler and jammed it into the ground by 2 inches. And so it exceeded it. I said, so even if he did that,
Right.
it's still 9 inches high, for God's sake. I said, so what is the difference? Just mow the thing and tell him you're sorry.
Exactly.
Pay the fine and
Exactly. Because it's really not about the fine. It's really about the compliance.
Yes.
Like, this is the rule. You broke the rule. We told you about it. You didn't fix it. Now you're before someone like me saying, fix it or I'm going to have to find you.
So let's talk about your experience as a state legislator. When was that?
From 2020 until now.
And so what's the similarity in the work that you've been doing over years in trying to keep people, you listen to what their challenges are and try to figure out how to help them in the work that you do as a state legislator?
It's like the work we do as when we sit in committee as a legislative body. So the legislature has these various committees that hear the various bills that we sponsor. And in those committees, we listen to the sponsors' reasoning and for that particular bill and the purpose of that particular bill. And oftentimes we say, listen, here's the downside to that bill, or here's the upside to that bill, or here's the unintended consequences. Maybe you should amend it so that it does this or that. So it's supposed to be the workout part of a particular bill.
And I think one of the things that's come home to roost is the unintended consequences of the changes that were made because of the collapse on Surfside.
Absolutely.
Okay, it was to protect people, health and well-being and public safety. To, oh my goodness, we didn't think about all this stuff that's happening now, and you can't exclude that public safety issue, obviously. But now we have tens of thousands of people that are being challenged where they live. And now I see the state is perhaps going to try to come up with some way to make it easier for people to pay those bills.
Because, I mean, when you think about that particular issue, right, and this was done because what was realized is that a lot of these associations don't have any reserves. So from a code enforcement aspect, an association, their elevator breaks down or the elevator is not properly functioning, they get cited by the municipality that says, you're out of date on your inspection, but then they got to modernize the elevator now, so that costs money. So, and they got a certain amount of time that I give them that they got to get it done, and they often would tell me, Your Honor, we're going to need time because we're going to have to do a special assessment because we don't have the money to make the repairs that's necessary to bring it back up to code. And so I think what we saw as legislators is that too often these associations were not working with the capital and reserves that they needed to make necessary repairs and changes to their buildings.
Because nobody wants to be on the board and say, listen, it's going to go up for $200 a month, for the next 2 years. And don't worry, when that one's gone, there's going to be another one. Actually, partway through, there's going to be another one.
Right. I think what they don't want is to say, yes, we have an assessment and it's $500 a month instead of $130 a month.
I was on the board of a low-income project area. I was the default president for many years. The board tried to raise the rate $10 a month, couldn't pass it. $10 a month. It was only 100 units, $1,000 a month. Total increase, it wouldn't even touch it. Finally, we got thrown off because we kept trying to. Now, God bless them, they figured out how to do it, which was, I was running for my life figuratively. It was like, you can't do that to me. And I go, what do you want from me?
Listen, we as Americans don't like fines and fees. We just don't.
Okay, so do you play golf?
A little bit. It's been a while since I've been on the greens.
And what about gardening? You garden? You do some gardening? Tell us about that.
Oh, yeah. Recently, my wife and I, my wife just one day said, you know what? I want a garden, like the full-blown vegetables and herbs and tea. And I grew up with a grandmother who gardened. And so I knew a little something about gardening. And I was like, sure. So we transformed about half of our backyard.
Good for you.
Into a garden where she can plant her herbs and her vegetables and things of that nature. So,
Danny, could you look up his web address and put it up there off and on. And what's your address? Is your website?
BenjaminForJudge.com.
Okay. Oh, there it is. Look up. There we go.
There you go.
Okay, good. So golfing, it's been a while, but
It's been a while, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the challenge of it.
And you taught in Miami-Dade Teen Court. What is
Still,
that?
Well, Miami-Dade Teen Court is it's a governmental agency. Right now, it's housed with the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust, MD. And what they do
Bill
is
Diggs, does that ring a bell?
yes,
Okay.
Bill Diggs.
He's right here every 2 weeks.
Okay, yeah, yeah. And and MD is formerly known as MAPS. And so basically, these teens have admitted to whatever crime they were arrested for, given a citation for, and they go before other teens to determine what their punishment should be, instead of them going through the juvenile justice system and having a record and things of that nature. So their other teens tell them, listen to their story, listen to the motivation behind what they did, listen to see if they're remorseful, and then decide what type of punishment they should get.
When I was a young teenager, Judge Robert Deal, former judge here in Miami-Dade County, took a whole bunch of us on a scared straight. He takes us into the jailhouse.
Okay.
And here it is 45 years later, maybe 55 years later, I'm going, I remember like it was yesterday. And then when my father said, if it can't pass the Harold sniff test, don't do it. All right? So between those two things, I haven't been arrested, so I'm very happy. So but back to your legislative experience. What notable things are you particularly proud of that you've accomplished?
I am proud of a few things that I was able to pass during the legislative time that I spent in Tallahassee. One is for 30 years we had a mandate in Florida to teach African American history. And then African American history kind of came under attack. At least that was, the thing that we were facing at the time, because this was the misconception that CRT was somehow creeping into the curriculum of our schools, which of course it wasn't. But what I wanted to do was ensure that the mandate to teach African American history was unblemished by it or untouched by it. And so I built in some safety nets and some guardrails to ensure that the mandate did what it was supposed to do. And it passed with bipartisan support. So not only do we have a mandate to teach African American history, we have a reporting mandate every year. They must report what they taught, who taught it, and if any school district fails to teach it, there's actually now a legislative punishment. There's a statutory punishment for that particular school district until they comply.
One of the things we know about human thoughts is we keep thinking the same way and with the same conclusions until some new evidence comes along that we no longer think that. So it's things like that that can straighten a lot of us out and say, oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. Because if you don't know that, then you know something which, if it's not accurate, can lead you down a pathway that's not accurate. So congratulations on doing that. So, and what lessons have you learned in your life so far that you'd like to impart on younger people that perhaps they're going to be leaders and perhaps they're going to be in jobs similar to yours?
I think that you should dream, and that your dream should scare you, as the saying goes. Because if they don't, then they're not big enough. And I remember when I was at Florida Memorial, I had a mentor tell me, everywhere you go, you should leave behind a legacy. Something that you can point to that says, this particular thing is better because I was here. And that's the thing I've tried to do, no matter what I've done in life. So in the legislature, the African American Studies bill, or the Good Dads Act that I passed to ensure that unwed fathers have the same rights as unwed mothers in our court system, that they also passed with bipartisan support. Just leaving this, my thing was to leave this thing better than I got it. And it's the same thing that I go into with being a judge. I want, when I'm done with it, I want people to say that that guy made a difference in our judicial system and in our community.
So when you're sitting in that chair of decision making, whether it's in the city or whether it's in traffic court or the teen court, wherever it happens to be, how do you balance all those things that not only knows I don't know all of them, but you balance the rights of the people that are there with trying to get them to give a little bit so that they can move forward. On the other hand, enforce the rules when they need to be enforced like that. How do you balance that?
A lot of time it's through education, and it's a lot of. When I was a traffic magistrate, a lot of it was we build up myths along the way, right? And so a lot of times it was me just busting myths, saying, no, that's not how things actually are. This is what the rule actually is, and it's not a bad thing because it's designed to do this thing or that thing that's good for you. And we want everybody following the rules because we all live in a society, and we need that order so that we can peacefully coexist. And a lot of times when people understand the rule, why it exists, and how you're trying to be fair about how you're implementing the rule upon that person and their particular circumstances, then a lot of times they're okay with the outcome.
Because once you have somebody that's centered, like yourself, that yes, you want an outcome to occur, but you can add a reasonable voice to it and a person of authority, all right, that they can believe you or not, but at least they'll have another option in their thoughts, all right, which was, can you take a right turn on red?
Right.
Whatever the rule is. Okay, fine. I was right. I was wrong. Whatever. So,
and it depends on who's giving you the ticket. Is it the camera or the cop?
So, exactly. So, and frequently people say, oh, so-and-so got away with something that was bad. I said to him, you ever speed on the highway? Yeah. So you broke the rule and you got away with it, right? And when you get caught, don't say that other guy's not there, because no, it's not about them. It's about you in this particular circumstance.
It's so funny that you said it, because one of my most common retorts when I was on the bench was I would hear the person say, well, the other guys were doing this. And I was like, but that's not a defense for you. We don't have a defense of the other guy did it too.
So if Christopher, people want to find more about you and things you do, they can go to your website, benjaminforajudge.com. And
yes.
The contact information is there. If they want to reach you, you can do that.
Everything is right there.
Okay. And we have 1 minute left. I'd like you to think about some of the mentors you had in life and people that have helped you get to where you are. All right, I want you to think about them, whether they're here or they're gone. I would like you to look right in the blue camera over here. This is okay. There you go. You're on. Look right in that camera and talk to them.
And listen, it's been a long time. It's been 22 years of working in our community, doing the best that I can for the community, and I'm taking another step in serving our community and becoming a county court judge so that we can continue to administer justice in a fair way for all folks in Miami-Dade County. And that's why on November 5th, 2024, I want you guys to go to your booths and punch 90 for Christopher Benjamin for county court judge.
Wow. Christopher Benjamin, thank you so much for being here. Congratulations on serving all of us, all right, in America, and particularly here in South Florida, and particularly Miami-Dade County, and maybe a little bit of Broward.
Absolutely.
Hey, thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
All right, well, hold on. Folks, thank you for joining us, and we appreciate it. Remember, take care of yourselves and your family. Have a good day.